Hey, everybody. Welcome to Away Games, the Chicago Cubs podcast. I'm Kevin McCaffrey. I'm here with Adam Amwala. Hey, Adam, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. We are at Away Games Pod on Twitter, on Instagram, and all the things if you want to track us. But before that, we're going to have, before we say hello to anything else about this week, which the Cubs have actually won a couple games. They walked off, apparently Mr. White Power, who has less white power than before, Josh Hader, is getting a couple losses, so tough break. Before that, we're going to say hello and have another good friend of ours say hello to us. It's Pat Hughes.
Hello to Kevin the Face McCaffrey. It's Pat Hughes, radio announcer for the Chicago Cubs. Jaimie contacted me and let me know you have a birthday coming up.
That is my wife, Jaimie.
Backpedal to that request momentarily. First of all, though, let me read the nice message from Jaimie, and it's all about you, Kevin. It says, Kevin is a huge, lifelong Cubs fan, despite being born into a White Sox/Mets family. What a combination that is. It says you're funny, kind, great CGs. He'd love you to kick off his 40th birthday weekend in Vegas with his wife, best friends, and Cubs fan brothers, Joe and Pat. And it says you miss Rizzo, Javi, and your 30s. There's nothing wrong with the 40s, Kevin. Trust me, you're going to enjoy the decade. It will go zipping by in the wink of an eye. So have fun while it's there. That would be my advice. Now let's get back to the birthday. Happy birthday to you, Kevin the Face McCaffrey. From me, Pat Hughes, Chicago Cubs radio announcer, and from the Chicago Cubs organization, a happy birthday to you, and from Jaimie
I don't believe
and
that,
all the
actually.
other people that love you.
They couldn't afford it.
Enjoy the day. Here's hoping that as a Cub fan, we enjoy the day at some point in the future. Not sure exactly when it will be, but it will happen again that I get another chance to say, the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. It gave me enormous pleasure to say those words in 2016. I say let's all go back and do that again and have some more fun. And speaking of fun, Kevin, I'm going to put together a voicemail for your telephone. It's a play-by-play segment, and you just happen to be part of the action, okay? And it's coming up in 3, 2, and 1. Kevin the Face McCaffrey takes his lead at second base. Heavy drama. Bottom of the ninth inning, Wrigley Field. Cubs and Cardinals tied at 3. Seiya Suzuki at the plate, trying to drive in Kevin with the winning run. Here's the stretch. And the pitch. Suzuki lines a base hit into left field. This could do it. Kevin the Face McCaffrey rounding third, heading home. Look at him go. Here comes the throw to the plate. Kevin slides. Kevin is out. Kevin is out, but when he returns, he'll be happy to call you back. Please wait for the tone and leave a message. Just beautiful slide at the plate, Kevin. Naturally, head first. It only could have been described as poetry in motion. Enjoy the voicemail. Thank you again to Jaimie McCaffrey for thinking of me for this assignment. Happy birthday, Kevin. Final thoughts. Go Cubs. Stay safe. And thank you for listening to Cubs Radio.
What a guy, Pat Hughes, ladies and gentlemen. And you can book him on Cameo, which is how that happened. My wife got him.
Yeah, what a guy, what a wife. I mean, pro move by Jaimie to seek that out for you.
Absolutely.
Now, quick question, did she have to pay extra to prevent Zach Zaidman from cackling in the background of that cameo?
I would have to ask her specifically, but I think if Zach was around, there's a couple of times when he would have popped there. Would have been pop worthy a couple of times. I cannot believe I was thrown out at the plate. Obviously, I get it. That it's a voicemail message, so I'm out. I can't get the call. I have to be thrown out there. But man, I couldn't score from second on a Suzuki single to left.
It was a line drive. There's a lot of heat on it. Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because inherently that's not as fun if you get thrown out at the plate. But what would be a scenario in which Kevin is out could be a good thing? I mean, I guess if Kevin the Face McCaffrey were pitching and you got someone out, but even then it wouldn't really work wording wise.
Yes.
It's tricky.
It is tricky because it's like you would like to make an out, like basically a Willie Mays-esque style catch in center field.
Right.
So you're shocked that he's out, and so is Kevin, something like that. But I'm not here to give notes to Pat Hughes on an absolutely 10 for 10, 74 homer type of record-breaking cameo message for my 40th birthday. That's
You know what? Oh, I've got an idea. I do have a note for Pat Hughes. I'm gonna let him know.
Sure.
So the way you could do it, Kevin the face McCaffrey stands in, tying run, whatever it is, bottom of the ninth, 3-2 count, and then he could do like a home run call and be, this one's got a chance, gone, and so is Kevin. Call back later.
See, that's very good too, and I hope, and maybe these are sort of. These alternate ideas would be helpful to him because he's doing a bunch of these cameos now. Clearly. And you can get him. And obviously we all recommend now you've heard it. So hopefully Pat is fine with us sharing this on the podcast because this is an advertisement for Pat Hughes, for the Cubs fan in your life. If you want something like that, obviously this was, I hate to say it, it was a home run of a thing that my wife...
out the tape measure, long gone.
Long gone. He is not coming back to his phone ever. It was such a fun surprise to play as we were getting ready in Las Vegas before going out on a Saturday. We're drinking in the hotel room at the Venetian as it was, and my wife just put that on the computer, and everyone absolutely loved it. But yeah, I mean, it's like if he's doing a bunch of these calls, you probably are going to want a number of different options to go with for the voicemail. Which, by the way, the voicemail was not even included that's just a bonus. You just have to say hi.
I assumed that was like something that there was like an upcharge option for Jaimie to pay more, and then he'll do a voicemail. Yeah. He was just being nice.
Yeah, I think it's just like she said she couldn't believe how much detail went into it and how long it was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because it's
I assumed that was like a premium package of some sort, but I guess he's just a lovely man.
I think so. And he's just, he's just hanging out doing this from from his house. And actually I had gotten him to do a cameo a couple years ago when my brother got married. I got cameos from a couple people as little happy getting married messages, and Pat's he's putting more in the game these days, and the other one was great too, but he's just hanging out in his living room recording these, and clearly
it's a great idea, like for everyone involved. It's cool for us to hear that. It's for people like that, like it's a pretty nice way to make some extra money. Especially considering like Pat Hughes, from what I looked at on Cameo, is pretty affordable. I remember you, don't think I've forgotten. I remember you attempted to get me a Pedro Strop cameo, but he was unavailable to come into the game. But
he was not in the bullpen. No one knew where he was, and time ran out.
But a big week for cameos because my friend Adam, my Mets friend Adam, who I've alluded to many times on the show, I had the opportunity, and I think he would be okay with me sharing this as they've kind of made this public now. He and his partner got married over the weekend. I got to officiate that wedding.
Oh,
which
shoot!
Was really cool.
Yeah.
They had an awesome photo shoot where they were posing together, and he's wearing a David Wright jersey, and she's like holding something over the W, so it says Mr. Wright. It was very cute. But biggest Mets fan in the world, truly. And I got him a cameo from Endy Chavez.
Yes.
Of 2006 NLCS fame. It's one of those weird things where, like, if the Cardinals lose that game, as they should have, it's an even bigger moment in baseball history. But nevertheless, an amazing catch. And I specifically asked him to make some sort of joke about Adam's partner being a great catch because he knows a thing or two about a great catch, and he absolutely nailed it. It was great. So shout out to Endy Chavez as well, but certainly not the length that Pat Hughes gave you there.
Sure. Yeah. Which makes sense. You'd expect the professional broadcaster to have a little more detail, but yeah, Endy Chavez was, I saw that cameo, and it was lovely and upbeat and silly and everything you wanted it to be.
Yeah, it was great. Now, I do wish that you could have told Pat, or Jaimie could have told Pat, what all of you were wearing on your first night out in Vegas, so he could do the colors brought to you by Benjamin Moore. But the
Benjamin Moore description. It does feel like maybe you could like send him a JPEG of like you at any important time, your headshot, your wedding, and have him describe it would be very fun.
But I have to assume that there were some beverages consumed in Vegas that could be purchased at Benny's Beverage Depot.
And if they couldn't be, they're hardly worth drinking or whatever it is. I forget exactly the.
If you can't find it at Binny's, it's probably not worth drinking. Now, did you pee in any urinals with Sloan flushers?
I didn't notice any. So yeah, we definitely used a couple of hefty trash bags, the official trash bag of the Chicago Cubs, to get rid of
the official trash bag of a trash organization at the moment.
Yeah. Say trash management. But I mean, for the trash management, the Cubs have actually been on a bit of a winning streak lately.
Well, we didn't do the podcast last week, and it turns out that we shouldn't do it because since the last time we recorded, the Cubs have won 4 consecutive series, which I mean, I did not expect that, especially playing against some pretty good teams. I mean, there was a series against the Cardinals, series against the Reds obviously are not great, but I mean, to win series against the Cardinals, the Red Sox, and the Brewers, that's no easy feat. So good for them.
Yeah, those are pretty likely 3 playoff teams right there to win series against. And the Red Sox series was a good one. Obviously, it's always fun to beat the Cardinals, and most recently the Brewers, and beating Hader in the 9th is just, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of it's always good. And watching those games and listening to some of them as I was driving around, because I'm in the Midwest now, I've been driving a lot, so I've been hearing a lot of Pat Hughes doing his day job, basically, and it's the Brewers are 10 games over 500. And obviously the back end of the bullpen is very good with Williams and Hader, and they have Peralta's been out for a while, and Woodruff has missed some time this year too. Burns is nasty, but the starting pitching when it's at its best is really good, and the team ERA is very good. But you look at this lineup, and it's one of the frustrating things to me when you see the Cubs playing like kind of okay and winning some games here.
Right.
It's just like the Brewers are not a dominant looking team here in first place. This division was eminently winnable if you tried a little harder, from the get-go, or at least you could have contended here. You look at the lineup and there's just not much going on there,
Yeah, and I tell you what, I mean, I believe this was the 3rd start that Corbin Burns has had against the Cubs this year, and he's 0-1, and the Cubs have won all 3 games. Like, if you just isolated that fact and told that to me before the season, I'd be like, wow, we might actually have something here.
Right.
But a lot of credit to Adrian Sampson yesterday, who looked fantastic. A ton of credit to Mark Leiter, who came in over the weekend when Mills had to leave after 2 batters, and pitched an absolute gem. So there are some positive things happening here for sure. What I'm curious about, I'd like to get your take on this. Like, sometimes you see this always weird segment of Cubs Twitter who's kind of Hoyer apologists or whatever you want to call them, who are like, well, the Cubs have had so many injuries this year, no one could have predicted that.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. But like, in a situation where everyone is completely healthy, which is unrealistic anyway, like there's no starting pitcher issues, Miley and Smiley and everything else that rhymes with those words stays healthy. Suzuki stays healthy. Stroman is healthy. Everyone's healthy. Even then, I still don't think the Cubs are a playoff team. They're probably more competitive, but I mean, I don't feel like that's a valid excuse necessarily.
No, and we've had people, I think relatively informed, sensible people who disagree with us on that tweeting at Away Games Pod with us. But I mean, the Cubs are sitting here, like we've won several series in a row against really good teams, which you can't even bank on when your team is good and at its best. So it's just been a good run here, and the Cubs are sitting at 34-48. So if you want to say they have perfect health, which no team ever has, and that is a thing that consistently teams that are bad like to complain about their health. And yes, the Cubs have had a lot of injuries, but I remember last year when on Twitter, we just made some offhand comment about like the Angels never being able to be good no matter how many of the best players in the world they have. And, we had Angels fans tweeting at us like, oh, but the injuries, everyone has fucking injuries. But let's say everyone is staying healthy and the Cubs, I don't know, like halfway through a season being 7 games better than we are is a big jump, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So if they happen to be 7 full games better, you're a 500 team because they're 34-48. So seven more wins and 7 less losses right there is 41-41. Still not.
And even with the injuries, they could be there. I mean, think of the close games that they've lost. They've lost so many close games, so many extra inning games this year. Again, not defending them, not saying that we
Right.
came into the season prepared to compete. But even more to your point that you made earlier, like a few extra moves and a bit of, good health, they could have competed in this division.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that would be a World Series threatening team, really. But I mean, yeah, it's not hard to see how trying a little harder in the offseason would have a little harder in the offseason and a little luck could have gotten you around 500 and a little better, and that would have been enough to compete in this what is a terrible division. As again, that's another thing some people argued with us about. I mean, I don't know how to argue with you if you can't read numbers. Like the Cubs have gone on this really hot streak, and they are now, I think, we're at 34-48. Third in our division and the sixth worst team in all of baseball. So it's a bad division, folks. It just is, But yeah, I mean, it's been nice to see, like you said, Leiter Jr., as we talked today. Leiter is going tonight. He's starting versus Tony Gonsolin, who is 10-0 with a 1.54 ERA for the Dodgers. so
I'll tell you what, if the Cubs win this series, which would mean it's a 4-game set against the Dodgers. If they win 3 out of 4 or sweep a 4-game series against the Dodgers, I don't even know what to tell you anymore. I think a split in LA anytime, but especially when you're not a good team, is an amazing accomplishment. I don't expect it. I feel like the Cubs historically do not play well in LA, but they did when it mattered. They won those 2 games.
They absolutely
2016 NLCS.
They did when it mattered. And the last time we faced Rich Hill before we faced him in Boston against Boston about a week ago at the beginning of this nice little run.
And also LA is where last season kind of unofficially ended. They had that combined no-hitter, and then it was all bad the rest of the way.
It's crazy how long ago that combined no-hitter feels. Yeah. And it's also, I mean, I had forgotten that it was Davies who started that game,
Oh my God, what an enormous piece of shit Davies is. I don't think we talked about that. Do you know about this?
Yeah, he ghosted his wife. Right. Which is, I mean, I'm laughing because it is, I mean, it's a dick move times a lot, but it's a funny thing to do. It's Hall of Fame fuckboy levels where it's just like he literally stopped. He, found another woman and he just stopped responding to his wife. And she did an Instagram post about it. And apparently that was going on all last year. And yeah.
Do you know how bad of a person you have to be to make Juliana Zobrist look not as bad?
This clubhouse has had some interesting personal. I mean, I guess one is the guy in the clubhouse is the bad guy, and one is the lady outside the clubhouse is the bad guy. So, but yeah, it's Zach Davies. Don't miss him as a baseball player or as a dude.
No. But yes, yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago that game happened, and even thinking of Zach Davies on the Cubs period. Feels like a long time ago, but yeah, I mean, what else have you felt good about in these past few weeks? I feel like there have been things to be somewhat positive about.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who still hates, one of my picadillos is just being sent into a raging fury every time I hear the pitch lab referred to as like a pitch lab trademark, somehow organizational advantage. I would like to give credit to some pitching progress lately, because I hate hearing pitch lab talked about like it's some crazy good thing when our team has been at average or below average developing pitching even since the first mentions of this fucking lab in 2019. But we've seen Adrian Sampson be very good lately in several different ways, right? So that's surprising. We've seen, and then the most important things to me are Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson pitching well in the rotation. So I think out of everything we're seeing, that's been the most encouraging thing, is that we're seeing Steele go deeper into games. We're seeing Keegan build up, and Keegan's usually getting into the 5th and then occasionally into the 6th. But we're seeing them miss more bats. I mean, Justin Steele is striking out a pretty good amount of people now, and I think seeing those two guys develop into what could be mid to back of the rotation starters on a decent team is a huge thing, and going forward lets you think of yourself, gives you more of a place to focus as far as where you would have to add to this team to contend going forward. They're answering a couple questions for us, hopefully, and hopefully their good health continues and the performance stays there. But I think Steele and Thompson are the two things that have been the happiest things for me.
Yeah, I think I would probably agree with that. In less positive news, in the 2 weeks that we've not recorded, the Kyle Hendricks roller coaster has continued. Basically, he got shelled, as he has a number of times this year. Then I dropped him from my fantasy team. Then he shoved it up my ass with a great start, and a pretty good start after that, I believe, as well. And then a couple nights ago in Milwaukee, he only made it through 3 innings. His velocity was way down. Now he is on the injured list. What are we feeling about Hendricks? Obviously, this impacts whether or not he would be traded. I don't know how you feel about that, but I mean, are we just seeing Hendricks kind of towards the tail end of his career, or do you think something's going on?
I mean, the thing is, Hendricks isn't that old, and guys end their careers at different, there are guys who are done at, I mean, you look at Carlos Zambrano was basically out of the league at 34 or something like that. And Hendricks is not that old. So I don't think this is a guy whose career is done right now. It's a mix of encouraging and discouraging when you see that it's a shoulder issue that flared up again, because he's now on the injured list. He's on the injured list for 15 days, and they're going to use the All-Star break to give him a little bit of extra rest. And I think they really need to find out physically what's going on there, because I think for him, obviously his velocity is going to be 87, 88, but there have been times this year when he's been popping it up to 89 even, which is as hard as he's ever thrown. Right. So like that, there is clearly some physical issue here. So getting a hold of what that is and getting that fixed, I think, is the thing you have to do before you have any ideas about what he is going forward from here.
Right. Yeah, and you got to feel for Mills too, because Mills just seems a bit snake bit at this point, and I don't know what the recovery is going to be from this latest issue. Did they say specifically what it was? I mean, I
believe it's
like
another
back issue flaring up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a back issue. It sucked for him, and he rarely posts on social media, but he posted a thing. Someone posted the no-hitter he threw in Milwaukee, and he said he reposted it and was like, "This is a thank you for the reminder, especially for how this is nice to remember, especially how the beginning of this year is gone." So I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. So it's nice to see him posting something in public, because I mean, it's been such a frustrating run for him, because out of all of his years bouncing between the rotation and the bullpen, and he's always done better in the rotation, this year seemed to be when he had that rotation spot open the most, and his health just hasn't complied. So it's too bad. But I mean, like, at this point, he's probably going to be down a while. Hendricks is going to be down a while, and like you mentioned, Miley and Smiley are down, and Marcus Stroman's down. That's a full starting rotation. That's not
Stroman should be I believe throwing a rehab start in AAA sometime this coming week.
He threw one.
Okay, yeah, and then obviously Suzuki is back and has made an immediate impact. I mean, he hit an inside the park home run, which was like as thrilling a moment as we've seen, especially given the moment in the game where it took place, which was up there with the coolest moments of the year. And then hit a ball yesterday, as we record this on Thursday, that it seems almost impossible to get that ball out. I mean, that ball was like a foot inside, and he just turned on it and yanked it down the line. I don't know how he did that.
It was like a wiffle ball home run derby sort of thing. It's just like, it seems like it seemed weirdly easy for him to put it over the wall, which was...
It was a real Big Mac 60-second home run sort of trajectory.
Totally. Where it's like, oh, that's a line. Is that out? It was surprising, but it's really encouraging to see him, to see the way he's played since coming back up. And it's only been a couple games, but I mean, it's easy to forget how good this guy is, how good we're told he can be, and I mean, there's not only his great stats in Japan, but we know he has a better eye for the strike zone than the umpires that are behind him, right? Which has been a big problem for him. We know his exit velocities are way up there, are, are pretty elite exit velocities off the bat. And it seems like he can get to that power pretty quick. We know his sprint speed is really good, as he showed off on that, that inside the Parker, which like it took a weird bounce off the wall, but it wasn't one of those things where like two outfielders collide and they fall down.
Right.
Took a weird bounce and he just kept running. And that was it. So, and then Willson, talking about injuries, Willson CONEtreras obviously has a hamstring that is keeping him out for, they're not putting him on the IL yet, right?
No, they'll do the typical Cubs thing where they'll wait 8 days and then retroactively put him on the 10-day IL. What I'm reading is that they'll be very cautious with him because probably he's going to be traded. Now, a couple things here. First of all, in terms of Suzuki, I actually have like a positive spin on this, right? Because we saw him come out of the gate really strong this year. He was incredible. And then he started slumping a bit, which people tend to do when they're new to Major League Baseball. And whatever, experience he had, like he was slumping a bit, I believe, before the injury took him out. Maybe the injury was an opportunity for him to recharge a bit to some degree, right? Like you think about what could have happened. Like, let's say he doesn't get injured and then he keeps scuffling and gets in his head about it.
Right.
Maybe having a little bit of time to reset isn't the worst thing in the world. Like, obviously it sucks that the Cubs have been without him for over a month, but we've talked about this a bit in the context of what Schwarber did in 2016, where it's like when we saw what his 2017 was in that full season where he really struggled, if that had happened in a 2016 where he doesn't get injured, he's not set up to have that kind of success in the World Series because he hasn't had the same year. So I don't know. That might be a stretch, but I feel like there's something to be said for that sort of break sometimes.
No, I think that's very true. You don't want a guy to get injured ever, but it can be a particularly tough thing about baseball as a sport is that it's a game every day. So I think it's very easy. It's easier than it is in a lot of other sports to sort of get in a mental spiral about this, where success can sort of breed success pretty quickly, but the opposite can happen too. And especially when you're in a new league, a new country, a new city, all these things. So I think the sort of forced time off for Suzuki came at a pretty nice time, and now he's got a week or so to get back into things, then the nice little all-star break, and then come back, in the second half of the year is going to be its own season for the Cubs, because it's going to be a different roster too, right? But part of the bummer about what we think the second half of this year is going to be is, as there have been a lot more credible reports lately that the Cubs are shopping Ian Happ, which is the thing. When you see CONEtreras, Happ, and Suzuki 2, 3, 4, you start to be like, hey, this is a major league stretch of a lineup right here. This is three really good players in a row. These are three players who could be hitting in a row on a team that is threatening the World Series.
Right. Well, let's tear it down then.
Stare it down. And when Ian Happ, by the way, is the same age as, say, a Suzuki. So if we're talking about building for the future, there's no reason not to think about keeping that guy too. And I think Sahadev Sharma has, the writer for The Athletic, has talked about a lot is, it seems like, of course, they are almost sure to deal CONEtreras and ever more likely to deal Happ. But when you talk about, the Cubs will spend, the money will be there when it's needed, was the quote thrown around a lot in the last couple of weeks. If you get rid of those guys, you have to replace them with guys who are as good or better. And then you also have to make the rest of the team better. So you just have to have an absolutely bonkers offseason to contend next year if you trade those guys. So,
would you, if I could guarantee you that the Cubs would pull an Aroldis Chapman, meaning from the Yankees standpoint, we're going to trade CONEtreras, get a big haul, and then re-sign him in the offseason, I think you and I would both be on board with that. No?
Yeah, absolutely. But when you do that, the thing is you have to, the relationship has to be good up until the point of the trade with the player.
Right.
And
which it's not.
yeah, it's hard to say, right? Because it's like Willson was pretty magnanimous when they couldn't come to an agreement about his arbitration numbers before the year, where he said, I think we would have gotten there if there was more time, but it was everything. Everything sort of shortened up this year, and then they eventually did come to an agreement like hours before, more or less. So I'm not convinced that it's completely poison, but the fact that they haven't had any extension talks, if you were going to do the Chapman thing, I think you would feel out what number Willson wants now while you have him under team control. And then if you deal him, you know what number you won't have to meet. You'll have to exceed that number to get him to come back, which big market team, that's an advantage you can do. You can overspend a little bit on some things. So yeah, I would love to do that. I just we just
no, and every time he has a big moment or he's interviewed after the game, he goes out of his way, Contreras, to say, and it means so much to me to do this as a member of the Cubs, and I hope I get to keep doing this as like, what more do you want from the guy to show you how much he wants to be here? Like, he's
the best catcher in baseball from a baseball perspective too. Yeah,
I feel like we've said this so many times, but how is it that you and I and so many rational thinking Cubs fans who are not even necessarily being homers or being irrational about it can see a path forward that does not involve trading some of these people? Like, I don't understand why you can't. All right, first of all, you extend Contreras. That's what I think almost everybody wants. Even the naysayers, I think, want Contreras extended, right? You extend Contreras at the deadline. If you're able to, you deal David Robertson. You get hopefully a nice haul for him. You deal Michael Givens if there's a market for him, which, he's been up and down, but I think you can still get something for him.
Chris Martin's looked great lately, and that's a guy who absolutely goes at the deadline.
Chris Martin, you can flip. I mean, there are bullpen arms I'd like them to hold on to. Like, I don't want them to trade Scott Efros. He might get you something in return, but like, I know Miley and Smiley probably aren't going to get you anything because they're not going to be healthy. Hendricks, who knows? But the point is, trade the people who are on short contracts that make sense, right? Get some prospects, hopefully some prospects or players who are actually closer to making major league impact, who are not Nick fucking Madrigal. Get some people in return, extend Contreras, hold on to Hap, obviously hold on to Suzuki, and then sign Bogarts or a few people in the offseason, and you're immediately at least competitive next year.
Yeah.
Is that so crazy to ask for?
No, not at all, because what we have seen is the Cubs have been able to put together a decent bullpen without spending a ton of money. And you'd have to, I give the front office credit for signing the veterans they did, the ones we just mentioned with Chris Martin, David Robertson, and Michael Givens, who has looked, less good than the other two lately, but that's a useful bullpen arm. That's exactly who you should be signing in a year where you plan to flip at the deadline.
Right.
And Miley and Smiley too are good bets on that.
Yeah, you don't need to be giving Andrelton Simmons $4 million when there's no market for him. But...
No, and to play second base is just like so funny, where it's like, I don't want him taking shortstop things away from Nico Horner, but the only purpose for Andrelton Simmons on a baseball field is to play shortstop. He's one of the best defensive shortstops of all time. So if he's not playing shortstop, like, we could have had anyone else playing second base. It's the most useless shit. So that's
how do you feel about Rafael Ortega being someone who would be flipped?
I'm fine with that. I think we've seen like that's sort of a pet, sort of a pet cause of Brett Taylor's at Bleacher Nation, talking a lot about Ortega's value to a team. I don't think he gets you almost anything. I think he is
value. He gets you a Bryce Ball.
He might get you Bryce Ball, who the Cubs managed to turn Kyle Schwarber into Bryce Ball. Bryce Ball looks fine, but he's not Kyle Schwarber, nor is he Jack Peterson, who they decided to replace Schwarber for less money, and who will also be an all-star this year. But I mean, I think Ortega is a useful bat, and especially a useful platoon bat, which we knew coming into the season. So on a contending team, I could see him being, a fourth outfielder type, and he's been better than that this year, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't know. Yeah, you're getting a low level flyer who's not in the team's top 10 prospects probably. But I mean, also at this point, I'm fine to do that deal. I think it makes more sense if you're basically packaging Ortega along with one of those relievers to get a single better prospect, would maybe make sense to me.
Right.
And August 2nd, as we talk about all these trades, August 2nd is the trade deadline as an FYI.
Yes, because of the delayed start to the season, which also feels like so long ago. Like, it feels, I'm glad that it feels, like a distant memory, but we spent most of the offseason being like, is there going to be baseball? So, hey, at least there's baseball.
There is baseball, and there's things to talk about. And as we said, there's been fun developments with these guys. It's like with Hap and Contreras playing, seeming like they really reached the best level they can reach here, which you could say sell high, right. But also, I mean, keep high performance players too would be neat.
I really hope, Contreras should certainly be a lock for the All-Star game, but I really hope Hap gets it.
It's tough, right? Because the Cubs as a team, they don't deserve 3 All-Stars, but they probably should have. But 3 individuals have played at an all-star level with David Robertson and then Happ and Contreras. So also vote for Willson CONEtreras. I voted several times, but the Braves fans have been voting really hard, and Travis d'Arnaud is closing in on him a little bit in the final round. They do a thing now where they had. You could vote for everybody. Now it's down to the finalists. So get out there, please. Just Google all-star vote. Go vote for Willson CONEtreras because he deserves to start his third All-Star game pretty clearly. So
yeah. And speaking of the Braves, I actually picked up Wilson's younger brother as his backup on my fantasy team.
It's pretty fun, right? And William Contreras, I have him on one of my 2 fantasy teams too. And William Contreras, he and Bryce Harper are the 2 finalists at the DH position for the All-Star game and in the National League. The first ever. So this could be a trivia question. Will be the first ever National League DH voted in. I think. I guess maybe.
Oh yeah.
Or at least purely voted in as a DH, but Bryce Harper's injured, so even if he is,
you gotta feel for him, man. Alive,
sucks.
That was awful. Did you see that?
I did, yeah, and with Blake Snell,
and you knew. I mean, obviously Snell was not trying to do that on purpose, and that was actually kind of a cool exchange between them. Like Harper was understandably very pissed off and yelled something to the effect of like, "Keep the ball over the fucking plate."
Yeah,
and Snell basically was like, I know, I fucked up. I'm sorry. And then Harper kind of like patted his chest like, I know you weren't doing it on purpose. I'm just pissed.
Yeah, which is like valid across the board there,
Totally, yeah.
And then I saw, did Vlad Guerrero get injured as well? Is he Vlad Guerrero? I hate a season-ending injury.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
And
I know Machado got very lucky to not more seriously injure himself. It's actually kind of similar to a Bryce Harper injury from a few years ago where he slid on first base and turned his ankle really badly, but Machado lucked out. But I didn't hear about Guerrero.
No, okay, maybe he's all right. Maybe
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You got any other twib notes? Any other stuff around baseball?
This week in baseball, I do actually. It just came through. It just came through that they named the Futures game rosters for
a little PCA.
Little PCA. Pete Crow Armstrong has been named as the sole Cub to either Futures game roster. So the Futures game is basically a prospect version of the All-Star game that happens. And last year, the Futures game MVP was the Cubs' very own Brennan Davis, who hit 2 homers in that game. So PCA is going to be the Cubs representative at that game this year. And it's nice because it's in LA this year, and that's where Pete Armstrong is from. His parents were both in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You might know his mom played the mom in Little Big League, I think it was. So he's going back to Hollywood to play in that game. So that'll be a fun thing to see him get a couple at bats and run around in the outfield a bit. Have you ever attended a Futures game? I have not. I've never attended an All-Star game. I know you did. You went to the Home Run Derby at least, right?
Yes. So when the game was in DC, I got to go to both the Derby and the game, which was cool because my friend Scott worked with the Nationals, so he didn't get tickets for free, but we got them like at face value, which is a deal in and of itself. And that was the Derby where both Javi and Schwarber participated and were great, which was cool. I got to go to the game. I got to see Contreras homer on the first pitch he ever saw in an All-Star game. When the All-Star game was at old Yankee Stadium 2008, I got to go to the Fan Fest. And then I think it was like 2014 that the All-Star game was at Citi Field. And so I went to the Futures game, and they also do the celebrity softball game after that. I got to see Kevin James slide into third head first and got a big applause. But here's a throwback for you. I believe in that game I saw your boy Arizmendi Alcantara hit a home run as the Cubs representative.
That was one that I absolutely missed on. I really thought Alcantara was going to be around in the majors for a long time. He's been up and down a couple times, and God bless him. He was fun to watch in that. Playing with at the major league level in 2014. But that's a fun one.
Yeah, he's certainly no Sergio Alcantara.
He's no Sergio Alcantara, who I think has been in the majors this year. I think he was getting some time with Arizona. If
there's a Kevin Alcantara also, right?
There is a Kevin Alcantara in the Cubs system who was the best part of the Anthony Rizzo trade last year, coming back. In Kevin Alcantara news this week, he just burst into the top 100 prospects now, according to nice. I think it's MLB Pipeline. I think there's basically you got your Fangraphs list, you got your MLB Pipeline, you got your Baseball America, and I think and Alcantara broke in, I think, in the Pipeline one, which now gives the Cubs 5 top 100 prospects on that list.
Nice,
which is good. I mean, five top 100 prospects as far as a farm system goes that's a good place to be. It's still not like the elite of the of elite, but that's telling you have some interesting things happening at the top end of your of your farm system. And Alcantara is down in A ball right now, but he's been showing a ton of power, and he is a 6'6" center fielder, which is he's got some big power tools there, which is exciting.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, anything else?
No, that's I think that will do us for this week. And before we're out of here, like me at home plate, according to Pat Hughes, and go get a cameo from Pat Hughes. I haven't seen and a baseball cameo wise, I want to put over Keith Hernandez, because I got a Keith Hernandez cameo for a friend of mine, and it was fucking amazing. It was perfect. It was goofy and gritty, and he did a great job. So if for the Mets fan in your life, I would also recommend that. But yeah,
and for the low price of a cameo from an E-list celebrity, you can also pre-order my comedy album.
Yes,
which will be out on July 15th. $10. That's all it costs.
Plug that. July 15th. Tell us everything we need to know about that.
Not much to know. The album is called Statistically More Relatable, and I have found that to be true. Turns out being sad, much more relatable than being happy. Who would have thought?
Absolutely.
It is available to pre-order on iTunes and Amazon Music or whatever the hell it is right now, and you can just go to my social media or my website and do that, and then it will be out everywhere on July 15th. So I hope you listen to it. And another special shout out, in addition to the Twitter shout out, to BCB Sarah, aka Sarah Sanchez, and the pastry man Tyler DePatis, and Ken Schultz, who not only came to the show but also did a guest spot on one of them. So shout out to our away games cohort for coming out.
This album has strong Cubs Twitter vibes.
It does.
In the crowd and leading up to the performance itself. That's great.
And I wore my World Series sweatshirt for 2 of those shows.
Nice. Lovely. And recorded at as you said, in Zany's Chicago. So big Chicago vibes. Go get that. Go get Adam's album, and follow us if you don't on Twitter at Away Games Pod. Get a Pat Hughes cameo. Have a good week, everybody.